Welcome to another week of the You Good Bro pod. We've got another guest this week, and it's a special month as well, which is why we thought this guy would be the perfect guest. So tell us a bit about it. Well, let's rewind first of all. Let's ask each other, because the title of the pod is You Good Bro. So I have to ask you, you good, bro?
Yes, I am. I like the accent.
Hold on. Let's rewind. Let's start again. We've got a special guest. Special guest.
Yeah.
Friend of the show. Activist, actor.
Yeah.
You might see him in Moss Side boxing.
Yeah.
You might see him running down Princess Parkway. MR Group, WhatsApp running group member.
Yes.
Everything. Lamin Touray.
Thank you. I love that intro. Yeah, I'm good. I'm really good. Life's life, and the year's gone fast, and it's just it's been a real year of growth and challenge and stepping out of my comfort zone and just going with the flow. It's been a difficult year, actually, career-wise, but I've really embraced it. And I think when you embrace those difficult moments, you can come out the other end. I've booked an amazing job, which I'll tell you off air, which I'm doing early next year.
Exclusive.
Which is amazing. And it just kind of reaffirms that, look, if you stick around in this game as a creative, as a freelancer, those wins will come back. Do you know what I mean? So, and I don't get my validation from work. It comes from within and just what you're doing in life. So I don't try and let work be the thing that gives me validation. So yeah, it's been a good year. It's a challenging year, but challenging in growth, and it's been good.
Speaking of wins, we've got a guy we're going to talk about with over 100 of them.
Yeah.
And he's right behind you on there.
Yeah.
Len Johnson. Like, this guy has been your life for I don't know how many years.
The last 4 years now, It's just consumed me for 4 years, So
tell us about Len.
So Len Johnson, what a story. I remember reading this article when I was 24 years old, lying in bed in the height of the Black Lives Matter movement. You know, George Floyd had just been killed. A lot of black people in the black community around the world, and especially in the UK and in America, were reflecting on their own experiences of racism. And I joined anti-racist WhatsApp groups and kind of got very heavily involved. And this article came through, my mum sent it me, and it also came through in this WhatsApp group. And I remember sitting up in bed, and I've never been more engrossed in like an article. I was captured instantly when I read it. I'm not a strongest reader, I'm not a strong academic or anything like that, but I just read this article and I was like instantly inspired by this story. But then very quickly the inspiration turned to anger and rage and like disgust at the fact that I'd never heard of the story, A, and B, it felt very purposeful. It felt like the story had been hidden from us purposely. You know, we was never taught black history in school. The only black history I was taught in school was your people were slaves. You know, my family would come from Gambia. So I remember watching Roots in like year 9 with Kunta Kinte, this, you know, the person that they enslave and take from Africa, and he was from Gambia. I remember being like, oh, wow. But it was never taught any positive stories or any inspiring stories or any uplifting stories. And the fact that, you know, I'm mixed race, West African, grown up in boxing gyms, love boxing, love the sport of boxing. I never heard of this story of this man, Len Johnson, from Manchester, enraged me. And I think, the last 4 years, coming up to 5 years now, I've just been making it our mission to get him out there, get the story out there, and celebrate him properly.
That's good. So tell us a bit about like Len Johnson starting with his career.
Yeah. So Len Johnson, for those who don't know, was a boxer born in Manchester in 1902 to a West African dad, Billy Johnson from Sierra Leone. He was a sailor, came in from Liverpool originally, and then obviously moved over to Manchester, where he met Margaret Johnson, who was a white Irish Mancunian. And they got together, Billy Johnson and Margaret Johnson got together and had a mixed race family. And back in the early 1900s, that was pretty rare, you know, for a woman to be with a black man. She actually got attacked in the street and scarred for life because she had children with a black man. So they were born fighters from the start. And he was born in Clayton, in East Manchester in, like I say, 1902. He then became a professional boxer in 1920. Like around the 1920s. He boxed all throughout the 20s until 1933. So he had a professional boxing career. His dad had a boxing booth where he would travel around from town to town and people would come in and watch him fight. And Len Johnson became a boxer. He was a middleweight, so he wasn't massive, but he was a middleweight. He was 6'1", so he was quite tall. And he had 135 professional bouts and 195. There's a few different numbers on the internet. There's like 93 and 95. I think we usually go with 95 because it's more wins. But 135 fights, 93 wins or 95 wins. And, you know, you just think about those numbers and you think, what? How can someone have that many fights? I think it's a fight every week or something like that. Or a fight every month for like 12 years, consistently with those gloves. And
That's like Sugar Ray Robinson numbers.
Yeah, the numbers are insane. You think about people like Muhammad Ali, who's seen as one of the greats. You know, he had about 60 fights. Len had double of that. And I remember when I read this story of just on his boxing alone, I remember thinking, right, okay, who did he fight? You know, was he just fighting bus drivers and local kind of guys and just thumping them up? He fought the greatest fighters of his generation. He fought a guy called Ted Kid Lewis, who there's a video on YouTube of Mike Tyson describing Ted Kid Lewis, who was from Essex, as one of the greatest fighters to ever come out of Britain. Well, Len Johnson from Manchester knocked him out in 1925, I think it was. So, you know, had this unbelievable career. They fought a few times, Len Johnson and Ted Kid Lewis, and he beat him every time. But you just think, unbelievable career.
All these fights, right?
Yeah.
If somebody nowadays was getting wins off, you know, big people like that, what comes next? Title shot.
Titles, yeah.
That is crazy.
In Len Johnson's case,
he wasn't able to, yeah. So the fact that I think this is the reason we didn't know his story was because he wasn't allowed to compete for the British title because of his skin colour. And so when reading this story, I was like, what? That doesn't make sense. Surely not. There was an actual rule, an actual policy which stopped him from competing for the British title. It was Rule 24 by the British Boxing Board of Control, which stated to compete for the Lord Lonsdale belt, which is the belt they still compete for now. It's the belt that Anthony Joshua competed for. It's the belt Dylan White competed for. Kell Brook competed for. All these famous black British fighters who've competed for the British title, who've now won it, is the same belt Len Johnson would have fought for if he was allowed to. But the rule back then in the 20s was to compete for the British title, you have to have 2 white parents. So it's about keeping the British Empire white. I'm just going to have a sip of this.
yeah, go.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
And that is crazy if you think of like the storied history of like black British boxers, and you think outside of football, boxing for black
Massive
British people
sport,
is
yeah.
probably second. You know, you got Lennox Lewis. You know what I mean? If
Nigel
you like you said,
Benn.
Nigel Benn,
Chris Eubank.
You know, we got a lot of big fighters, and the fact that this story's been hidden for so long
Until
is
now.
crazy.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it felt purposeful, and that's where the rage kicked in. And we spoke about it, and you know, it has become a thing of. It's like it is a campaign, and it is a real fight back at the system that kept this story hidden from us. Because although it's an amazing story, it's a story so many people connect with, and it's a story that inspires. It's also it's a fight back because they kept it hidden from us on purpose. I'm convinced of that. They don't want these stories coming out. They don't want us to feel empowered. They don't want us to feel. They don't want us educated. Full stop. You know, education, they say, is one of the biggest weapons that they can use against us. And you know, I think about my own education. I left school with 2 GCSEs. You know, as far as the British education system works, I'm a failure, or they failed me because I know I'm not a dumb guy, but I didn't get maths. I didn't get English. I left school with 2 GCSEs. That was it. In drama and PE. Do you know what I mean? And I think it's purposeful. This education systems, we know it's systemically racist. You know, black boys, I think 8 times more likely to be excluded than their white counterparts. And then what does that lead into? That leads them falling into the criminal justice system, which we also know is systemically racist. So these issues are massive. And I think the story of Len is just a huge springboard to open up these conversations. And Len was a proud anti-racist. He was an activist. He fought out of the ring, and that's another part of his story that I love and resonated with and connected with, because it's like, wow, okay, he had this boxing career, fought for 13, 12 years, and still didn't give up and continued to fight outside of the ring. You know, he attended the 5th Pan-African Congress with future leaders from Africa who were wanting to fight for liberation of African countries and have their freedom from British colonial rule. He fought for workers' rights. He overturned the colour bar policy in the old Abbey Tap House in the middle of Hume Moss Side. Like, he was just an unbelievable man who fought till his very last breath and passed away in Oldham in 1974, relatively unknown, relatively broke, relatively in ill health. But he was the people's champion. He was loved by all in Manchester at the time. He was a hero, and I think we celebrate our unsung heroes in Manchester. And what a story that he's got, and that we can now educate the next generation with and inspire the next generation with. And there's loads of other stories that we won't know and that we should uncover as well.
That's just what you're doing. You're inspiring the next generation because you now have this story and you're bringing it to schools and other groups and stuff. So how are you doing that?
Yeah, so because I'm an actor, for me it's like, okay, how can we creatively tell these stories? And I think sport and theatre or music and art, full stop, is just a massively important way to connect with people. So the first thing we did was was it the play first? Yes, we did the play first, which is delivered by Odd Arts, written by the amazing Curtis Cole, who's from Moss Side, who's got Sierra Leone heritage himself, which is crazy. And grew up in Moss Side himself, never knew the story. I'm not going to expose his age, but his whole life, he never knew the story of Len. And he wrote this amazing play called Knockout Blow, which tells the story of Len Johnson. It's short and action-packed, 20 minutes. Get it into schools, we deliver the piece, and I love that. For me, that's one of the most important things we've really done in the campaign, is just to tell the story to loads of children. We're not asking them to come to us, we'll come to you and tell the story. And Odd Arts are an amazing organisation based in Moss Side and Hume, who just do unbelievable work and have done for years. So that's an amazing part of the campaign, the play, which gets delivered to, and has been delivered to over 5,000 kids. And Show Racing the Red Card also partner and help deliver that.
And there's something else on the horizon, isn't there? We're talking about visuals.
Yes.
There's something else on the horizon.
Yeah, we've got this amazing poem. So Griot Gabriel, who's a well-known poet in Manchester, the Len Johnson CIC, because now that we're set up as a company, we commission him to do the poem of Len. And again, it's just another creative way to tell the Len Johnson story. You've got music, we've got the rap, we've got the play, we've got breaking bars, we've got the football match, we've got all these different aspects of the campaign. And like I said, music, sport, art brings people together, and we can educate people in a kind of non-radical way, but it's really radical at the same time. So yeah, Gabriel's done an amazing poem. It's been filmed on location and at the boxing club, at the gym. My sister directed it. It was a great team of creatives. It was just an unbelievable shoot. So we're looking forward to that coming out and people seeing that.
We had the pleasure of seeing the charity match as well.
Yeah.
So how long has that been going for?
So the charity match was just like creatives, we have ideas all the time. We just sit there, and this podcast was probably an idea at one point, and now it's come to fruition.
It got out of the group chat.
Made out of the group chat.
Stage,
And actually, I think it's important to just have ideas, and then to make them come to fruition is an amazing thing. So that started off as an idea. It was in 2021. I was sat at FC United in the stands for a Legends game, and I thought, I'm going to put an event on here one day. And it was a bit arrogant to even have the audacity to think that, because I've not got any experience in putting on big scale events or anything. But I just thought, I feel so passionate about this Len Johnson story, and I think I love football, I love sport, and I think it's just tying them all in together. So I was sat there in the stands, and then went away, worked, did my acting job, and then I just, the moment felt right in the back end of 2022, and I went and pitched my idea to the club at FC United. They loved the idea. I felt like I had enough reach to get certain names in and network and message this person, shout this person, get this person. We were just winging it. We winged it, but it was unbelievable. And Jay, who's behind the camera, was a massive part of that and massively helped with just pushing it out there. But yeah, the first year was insane. And it was all about raising funds for the statue, because there's a statue campaign to build a statue of Len Johnson in the city centre. It's going to be the first statue of a black person in Manchester, which is crazy.
It's insane.
That is crazy.
When you think about the contribution.
When you told me that blew my mind. I couldn't actually believe that.
So that's a huge part of the campaign, but the campaign will live on forever. Once the statue's up, we still continue to tell the story. I'm not just going to walk away and be like, right, job done. Until for me, he's a household name. It'll never be done. So for the next few years, it'll probably consume me for a bit longer till the statue's up, but then it will be a continuous, let's just tell people this story. The celebrity match, we had the first year in 2023. We got over 1,000 people in the stadium, which was insane. It was such a beautiful community day. We raised over 10 grand towards the statue. Andy Burnham came down, H was in the stands, loads of celebs came. It was just an unbelievable day, like a real wholesome day. And probably one of my greatest achievements in terms of just on a personal level, just being able to pull something of that scale together. And then this year it just scaled up even more and it went to another level, and I've still not really recovered from the stress of it.
Not surprised.
Next year we'll scale up again, and again the main thing is just awareness. We was at United on Friday, and there was a room of kids there from about 6 different schools, and it was with Show Racing the Red Card and United Foundation. And I said, right, put your hand up if you know who Muhammad Ali is. All the kids put their hand up. And I said, now put your hand up if you know who Len Johnson is. And unfortunately, none of the kids put their hand up.
It's a good
measure to just be like, okay, we're not there. There's still work to do. There's still loads of kids in the area, in the city, who don't know Len. I did it at where City used to train. Where did he used to train? Platt Lane. I did it at Platt Lane to these kids, and these were young kids, and I didn't think this was I think just before the celebrity match this year, so it would have been April, May time. And there was loads of kids, maybe about 50 kids, and I said, put your hand up if you know who Muhammad Ali is. And I thought they might not even know who he is, because they're young. They all put their hand up. Yeah, he's a boxer. I said, all right, put your hand up if you know who Len Johnson is. More than half the kids put their hand up.
Wow.
So in certain pockets, in certain communities, the kids are, you know, if we've been to your school, they're going to know him.
So does that make you feel like your work is working?
100%. That was a moment I messaged a group chat and said, guys, the story's getting out there. All these little kids knew who Len Johnson was. And I didn't believe them. I went, who's Len Johnson? And tell me. I was so skeptical. I couldn't believe it. So that was a beautiful moment. And you just think that's all it's about. Because I remember that moment, being 24, reading this article and going, how did I not know this story?
Yeah.
And it was the same for Curtis Cole, it was the same for you, it was the same for everyone who interacts with the story.
No idea.
So yeah.
But I do think it's important, like we're coming on to almost 75 years since Windrush, where a big proportion of black people moves to the country. It's important we share these stories, and it's important to go to the next generation, because you hear from other generations and you think, I didn't know about this, I didn't know about that. Like, I was reading about, I learned this about my uncle, and he was in like the Voodoo Ray video for, a guy called Gerald.
Yeah, we were talking about this the other day,
And a lot of people did not know that he's from our side as well.
Yeah.
A lot of people didn't know that.
It's crazy. I mean, our local history, we live here, we inhabit these spaces, we should know what's going on. You look at the Naya Moss Centre in Hume, Nina Simone opened it, the Beatles performed there, it used to be the BBC, Ziggy Marley's performed there, Dennis Brown performed there, loads of stuff. And you just think, that's just on our doorstep. You walk past that dusty old building.
I actually went in the other day, so I stumbled. I was walking home from a boozy night out, and I thought, I'm going to walk home. I can't go over the bus or whatever. I walked past it, and there was music going on.
Yeah, they're raving there all the time. It goes off.
I went into the door, and I went to the front where the guy had like a card machine or whatever, and I just said,
can I come in?
Is this? You got a bar in there?
Yeah.
No, that's what I mean.
I didn't ask, can I come in? I said, you got a bar in there?
Oh, okay.
And he said, yeah.
And you went in?
So I went in.
Yeah.
And yeah, honestly, I looked at it and I thought,
wow.
Jeez, I can't believe it.
History just in its, that was one of the biggest black arts venues in Europe. It was a radical arts venue in the middle of Hume on your doorstep, and we don't know about even near the Hume Asda, the Reno Club.
Yes.
Bob Marley went there. And you think in the middle of my side, it's just a patch of grass now. It was one of the biggest nightclubs for black and mixed race people back in the day.
They did dig it up though, you know about that?
Yeah, they did. Yeah. I knew about that. But I just think history, and again, history. When I was in school, we're talking about black history for this episode. I used to put my head on the desk in school when it was history and just go to sleep with the teacher and just talk to me about Henry VIII.
Divorced, married.
But now as an adult, I'm like, I could sit here and talk to you all day about local history or general history, and it's like, because it's fascinating. It shapes us who we are, doesn't it? We have to learn from the past to move forward. So history is fascinating, but it's not taught properly in this country. And I think Wales have, in 2020, they made a big landmark thing where they made it in compulsory to teach black history on their curriculum, on a national curriculum. We need to also follow those steps. And I know Andy Burnham and Manchester need to be leading that as a city.
Absolutely.
And then eventually across the rest of the UK.
Yeah, I think that's very important, as you say, because with everything, with the internet these days, it's almost got to learn ourselves.
Yeah.
But we've got to take that forward and go like, okay, we're not getting it from our school. Let's learn this and let's teach this and let's advocate for these stories to be put into a place where everyone knows about these things. Because like I said, I know there was black history way before. Like Len Johnson's a good example of black history before Windrush. But I'm saying like, these stories need to be put out there. There's a lot out there that should be told.
And be like that's why mainstream and not kind of put into a separate section. That kind of history. And look, I know we're doing this for Black History Month, but I remember seeing all these comments, and there's people, I'll say it, white people who turn around and say, "But where's White History Month?" Like as every month. Do you know what I mean?
But also as well,
we should.
It's British history. It's Manchester history.
Exactly.
It's
Irish history.
Exactly.
It's Mancunian history. Like it's a working class history. It's all of our story to take ownership of and celebrate and own. As far as I'm concerned, we celebrate Black History every month. October is a month to kind of go and ignite those conversations and continue the conversation, but we celebrate it every month.
100%. Right, so you not only are an activist, you're not only doing the Len Johnson stuff, you act as well.
That's my job.
It's your day job, as it were, as opposed to the other stuff. But tell us a bit about that and your journey with that. You were in a couple of big things.
Yeah, I love the camera,
Where's Coronation Street?
Corrie was mad. Corrie was the biggest one because when you're an actor, and I worked in theatre for years. People go, "What have you been in?" You're like, "Oh, I didn't do any TV for a good few years. I didn't break into TV until about 4 years into my career, I think." So when I got Corrie, I was like, yeah, this is a good one. And everyone started kind of giving me a bit more juice and be like, oh, he's on Corrie. I see people now, they're like, you still on Corrie? I'm like, no.
Was it Ashley Hardcastle?
What? What a guy.
I remember the character.
I love that character.
I was a fan.
I was an arrogant striker.
Yeah,
I played for Weatherfield County. It was great fun. But yeah, I loved it. It was great fun and I learned a lot on it. But yeah, I've done some great jobs. I started working in theatre when I was 21, straight out of drama school. And it was just a passion that I've had from a young age. And I just, I feel very grateful that I was able to have a dream as a kid, as a 14-year-old, who was not good in school, but had 2 amazing drama teachers who believed in me, and then go and make that my career. So I always practice gratitude and just be grateful for every moment I get paid to do a job. I remember the first job I ever did on CBBC, I got paid 250 quid, which is peanuts. But I did it at the Zion, actually, in Hume. It was a pilot episode for a show on CBBC. I remember just being like, I didn't want to sign with my agent at this point, and the casting director was like, they're going to pay you 250 quid to do this gig. I was like,
you're going to give me lunch?
I'd love it, so I'd do it for free. So then, and then, just started navigating my way through life and through the industry and having to juggle jobs with acting and, try and make it work. And then after COVID, I had a period where I could not focus. Obviously, we had the campaign against my drama school, which I won't go into. So we don't even give that energy now.
It's done.
And it's done, and that was victorious. But
exactly, we did the job.
Yeah, and that's where we connected actually on that. And then we realised we had loads of mutual friends, and we've been boys ever since. But there was that. And then once I had some mental space, I kind of got back on the acting thing, and I just loved it. And then that's when I booked like Corrie. I did a couple of series of All Creatures Great and Small, where I played like a local farmer, period drama. And I did Waterloo Road, I did Doctors.
These are all like prime time
shows.
Yeah.
And like I've not done any TV for a couple of years now, but a couple of years is nice. I'm just one of those, I'm so focused, I'm like, I know it's going to come back around again. I've got, like I said, booked an exciting job for next year. And I love my theatre, I've done lots of theatre. I've been championed by an amazing director called John Godber. I've done 2 tours of Bouncers.
Yeah, which I saw you in that. I tell you what, I'm a Lamin fan. I'm a Lamin Touray fan.
You guys tapped in.
I know everything he's doing. I know his movement. So it comes to that acting. I know everything.
So I love my job, and I'm very grateful to be able to be a creative and make money from it. And I know it's a tough industry, but I think all this kind of activism stuff took a lot of my attention. And obviously I don't get paid for that. For breaking bars, I don't make a penny from it, but I do it, and it keeps me energized and keeps me focused, and like I'm very clear now. Like I think earlier on in like 2020, 21, I was a bit like, I'm doing all this stuff now. Like I own the fact that I'm an activist. I kind of just go, do you know what, I am. And if you as an employer have a problem with that, don't hire me. But know what you're hiring when you're hiring me, because I'm not going to keep my mouth shut if there's a problem.
But one thing I respect about you, I think that you do things for the love. So if it's activism, you do it for the love.
Yeah.
If it's like acting, you do it for the love. One thing I was going to ask you, probably already answered it, but how do you combine the both? How do you combine the two with your time and your...
Do you know what, just a point on that about doing things for the love, it's interesting because obviously people do have their own motives and stuff, and that sometimes it's a bit of an insecurity. Like when I did the event the other day at the town hall, I was like, is it one of those things that you worry about sometimes, people looking at you some kind of way, thinking, is he doing it for ego, or you doing it for... attention or whatever, and I have to put that out of my mind and go, look, you know what you're doing it for. Absolutely. I know when I read that article on Len, what I was doing it for. I didn't do this to be like, I want let me get loads of praise and let me get loads of attention from it. It's just, when you know, and I think I'm glad that comes across.
If you were doing it for that reason, boy, the amount of energy you put into that.
And it brings me back to 2020. Like I joined Hume Stand Up to Racism for 18 months. We were kneeling down on the side of Stretford Road in the rain, in the cold, in the dark, for 18 months every Wednesday for 9 minutes to remember George Floyd, and holding Black Lives Matter signs as cars drove past. We're not doing that for cameras and for attention and all that. For 18 months straight we did that, and that was where a lot of this energy and kind of commitment came from, through those crucial months there where just the community were coming out. And sometimes it'd be 6 of us, sometimes it'd be 16 of us, sometimes it'd be 20 of us, and we'd kneel on the side of Stretford Road, in the Black Lives Matter movement, taking the knee obviously as a global symbol, and then after we'd have those conversations, and that's where a lot of energy of this came from. But how do I juggle the two was the question. I just make it work, bro. Just make it work. I've got ADHD, so I'm just like la 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 la. My brain's just mad. So I'll wake up and I'll just be like on it, and then I'll chill for a bit. And it's not like I'm a one-man army. We've got a team. There's a full-on team of us. The Len Johnson CIC got set up last year. And that's we've got an amazing team working tirelessly to bring this campaign to the masses. And you know, breaking bars, we've got a team. Odd Arts kind of just works obviously fluently. The Len Johnson celebrity match has got a team, so it's all teamwork, and teamwork makes the dream work. You know, together everyone achieves more is what team stands for. So
just circling back, just to finish off, like this podcast is, you know, about mental health and well-being and how people look after themselves, as well as the life stories that they come with. What do you do to keep your mental health in check? Because what you do and the amount you do must be draining mentally. How do you keep your head above water when it comes to the mental side of things?
Yeah, good question.
The well-being, because we've all got different ways.
Yeah, I think for me, fitness and exercise have been massive in my life. You know, I don't shy away from mental health. It's something that, you know, I've got family members who, well, we've all experienced mental health, but have suffered with, you know, poor mental health. And so it's not something to shy away from. You know, I've got my good friend Jamie Dennis, who founded Mandem Meetup.
We need to get on the pod.
Yes, and you know, go on hikes with the Mandem, and they're an amazing organisation who I'm like friends of the organisation because Jamie's my boy. So you know, mental health's crucial, and it's so important to talk about how you feel. I think for me, I just manage it through exercise. I manage it through keeping a balanced lifestyle and going. You're gonna have highs and lows, and just try and stay balanced. And training for me, running, boxing, football, which I've not been able to do actually for about a year or so, 2 years, because I've just got injuries, and that actually affected my mental health because I was like, I love playing football and I can't do it. So yeah, I'd say fitness for me keeps me sane, keeps me ticking, and just sitting with your feelings and acknowledging them.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really good.
Well, Lamin, thank you for joining us today. And if you can't play football in real life, you can always play one on Coronation Street. So
exactly.
So Lamin, aka Ashley Hardcastle,
thank you, my bro.
Thank you for your time today.
Anytime as well.
Loved it. We'll catch everyone else next week for another episode.
Yeah, man. Peace.